this helicopter is currently showcasing is a rescue operation being undertaken in which they are going to rescue an injured soldier. You can see on your screen, those are two T-90 tanks along with two BMPs making a tactical maneuver here in eastern Ladakh. Now interesting is that all these technicians that you see on your screen have undergone intensive training by the army. I am currently standing on a T-72 tank. साहब ये बताइए कि ये क्या है?
ये सब आर्मर एम्बुलेंस ट्रैक है जो कि लड़ाई के दौरान जल्दी से जल्दी कैजुअल्टी को एवॉइड करके फर्स्ट एड दिया जाता है और नज़दीकी हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचाया जाता है।
Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Snehesh Alex Philip. I, along with my video journalist Suraj Singh Bisht, are here in Ladakh to get you stories from the ground. Why we are here? Remember that it was in May 2020 that a military standoff between India and China began. And this is 2024. And hence, we will try and get you about what really has happened in Ladakh. What are the changes that have been brought about, not just in defense preparedness, but also in terms of infrastructure. By infrastructure, I don't mean just the roads or the tunnels, but also the development that is happening in border villages, which continue to be an important element in the overall defense architecture. We are now at the Aviation Brigade in Leh. Remember that it was post-2020, following the Galwan clash, that the army decided to restructure the aviation assets. Since then, 3 aviation brigades have come up in the country, one for the Eastern Command, one for the Western Command, and then one for the Northern Command, which is based here. Now, this particular, another important change that has happened is that all UAVs, that is, unmanned aerial vehicles that used to be operated by the artillery, has now been brought under the Aviation Corps. And at this particular Aviation Brigade, they have a combination of Cheetah helicopters as well as the Dhruv and the armed version of the Dhruvs. I have with me Lieutenant Colonel Amit Ansal to talk to us about what are the activities that happen here, what are the kind of operations that takes place, and what are the challenges it comes when it comes to operations in high altitude areas like Ladakh. So welcome to The Print, Lieutenant Colonel.
Thank you.
In terms of, so if you could just give us an overview of what this Aviation Brigade is all about.
First, I'll tell you the peculiarities of this terrain. See, the terrain itself is inhospitable. The mountains, if you have seen, are so rugged. The weather itself is very unpredictable. And the high altitude effects, both on the men and the machine, takes a toll. Despite this, the aviation assets that we have, there are individual trainings with a particular variant, as well as tandem trainings with all the 3 variants that you mentioned. This is required so that during the ops, we have a synergy in operations. And it's not just among the aviation assets that we are doing the trainings, it is also with the ground formations that we are training. Because it is ultimately the ground formations who are taking the ops ahead.
So for example, the Dhruv behind here, it seems that this is more for evacuation purpose. I saw a Dhruv which is parked on the other side, which has a sensor beneath it. So are these used for different activities? Is that how you plan your operations?
See, the ALH Dhruv is a multi-role aircraft. I can use it for CAS evacuations, I can use it for troop induction, de-induction, I can also use it for surveillance. The day camera which you saw is used for surveillance into the enemy territory or the area of interest where we want to do our ops or we want to gain any int or any intelligence from there. So it is a multi-role aircraft, so the mission decides what configuration that will take with us for the with the aircraft.
So this particular aviation brigade has three different units, right? So we are here at the unit which has the ALH. Which are the other ones, sir? Is there a separate one for the RPAs also?
The different units are taking care of the aviation assets. For Cheetah is a different unit, and RPA has also been taken care by different unit. All these three units come under the Aviation Brigade and further under the our formation. So we all work under tandem because that is a requirement.
Well, there you go. That was Lieutenant Colonel Amit Ansal giving us an overview about the operations carried out by this Aviation Brigade. Well, as the officer earlier mentioned, that before every flight, there are a number of inspections that takes place. So I have with me CFN Sandeep, who is from the Army Aviation Corps, who is carrying out certain inspections along with his team of this particular helicopter. We'll try and talk to him to understand what really, what is the kind of training that he has undergone and how did he end up being here in the Army Aviation Corps. So Sandeep, when did you join the Army?
Sir, I joined Army in 2019 and I have carried my basic training in Secunderabad. After completion of my basic training, I undergo through 4 years of the training of Army Aviation, where I have given a proper technical training as well as my basic training about how helicopters work, what the components are there and how we have to maintain them. And in middle we got the technical visits also in the units. In between of our training, we go to different units and we get to know how our trade work goes, how the DI is carried out, what are the flight safeties. After completion of my 4 years of training, I posted here. Now after that we go through a test. When we pass that test, then we are called a technician. Then we are allowed to do daily inspection or the servicing on the aircraft. If we will not pass that test, so we cannot pursue our DI in helicopter. So we are not a qualified technician after that. Okay. After completion of test, we are called a technician. So after that hold under approx 4.5 years, we get a chance to pursue our technical work in the aircraft.
So now, for example, you joined in 2019, तो इसका मतलब हो गया कि roughly आप 4 साल आपका ट्रेनिंग हुआ, तो 2023 में 2022 में आपका वो ख़त्म हुआ. सो आप पिछले 2 साल से आप यहाँ पे कर रहे हैं. तो ये आपकी लद्दाख में आपकी पोस्टिंग कब से है?
Since 2023.
So since 2023 you are posted in Ladakh. So how challenging is it in Ladakh?
The most challenging is the weather. In summer it's okay, fine. It's usual as normal in peace areas. But in winter, when the temperature go -20, -25, and we have to come for the inspection in early morning, 2:30 or 3 o'clock. So that time that is shivering cold, and we get a hard challenge of doing the DI because it's even hard to touch a metal piece there. If you touch the metal without our gloves, then our hand will stuck in the metal. So it's a very hard challenging, but it's our job and we have to pursue it.
Well, there you go. That was Sandeep telling us about the fact that he loves this job and he has to, work even when it is -20, even if it's -20 degrees Celsius. He becomes an important integral part. So you would have seen the pilots flying the helicopters, you would have seen them doing multiple stunts at the air shows, but remember that behind every successful pilot, there is a team of technicians who work around the clock to ensure that the helicopter is flying fit. You've seen the Dhruv WSI, which is the armed version, and what you see behind me is a very unique helicopter. Why I'm saying unique? Because this is actually called the Cheetah, which is a modified helicopter. Now how it has been modified and from what it has been modified, for that I have with me Major Ayush Devlial to tell us more about this. Ayush, if you could tell our viewers what is so special about this helicopter.
So this helicopter is one of its kind. Reason being, it's an Indianized version of a French origin helicopter called as a Llama helicopter. This helicopter is unique in its own sense, reason being it's a single jet helicopter and it's the only helicopter which are flying at altitudes of more than 20,000 feet. In fact, this is a helicopter which holds a record of landing at 7,000 meters, which is approximately 23,000 feet.
So where was this?
This was in the Himalayan region only.
In the Himalayan
was in the year 2004.
So this was in 2004. So when you say it is a modified version of the French helicopter, which would mean is that this is the modified version of the Cheetah.
The Llama helicopter, which is called as a Cheetah helicopter in the Indian terms, and then it was modified and called as Cheetah, which is now being manufactured under license by HAL.
So viewers, one of the thing that what the HAL has done is the fact that the engine that you see behind me is not the engine that is there on Cheetah or on Cheetah, but is the engine that is there on Dhruv. Am I right, Major?
This is being used in ALH Mark 1 and Mark 2s. The engine has been taken from there. It's called a TM332M2 engine, and that has been modified into this airframe of a Cheetah helicopter, and that is how it is generating that kind of power which is required in this kind of a terrain to fly.
So, Major, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only unit which is operating this? These helicopters operate only in this region?
Yes, this is the only unit in the entire Indian region wherein we are operating this. We are part of 666 Aviation Squadron, wherein we are deployed with this kind of helicopters. We have a total of 10 of them over here.
Okay, one more question, Major. For example, this has a Dhruv engine. Now, Dhruv is a larger ton engine, it's a 5-ton over 5-ton class engine. This is a 2-ton class engine, yes. But it has the same. So there are particular passes where the Dhruv is not able to maneuver or can't fly in, and that is where this helicopter is used.
Exactly. It being lightweight, a 2-ton class helicopter, and because of the small size, at places where ALH Dhruv cannot go, like Siachen base and all, the posts which are quite small, the helipad landing areas are quite small. Over there, this is the helicopter which is the lifeline. It is doing all the air maintenance and doing a ferry of all the troops. So that is wherein the role of this helicopter comes in, small valleys wherein ALH cannot go.
So one more thing, the ALH has night flying capabilities. Do these helicopters have night flying capabilities?
So we don't have NVG fitted into these helicopters. However, our pilots are trained enough to fly this helicopter in the night, and we'll be demonstrating the same to you today.
Well, there you go. What you will see next is this helicopter taking off here in middle of the night. This is right now, if I look at my time, there's about 9:30 here in Leh. This helicopter will take off in some time. You'll see them in flying. We'll also try and showcase you the Dhruv carrying out night operations, and there is a special surprise coming up for you in that flight operations too. Last night we showed you the maintenance of the HAL Dhruv helicopters. Now a similar kind of maintenance also takes place, a routine that also takes place when it comes to the Cheetah helicopters. As I mentioned, the Cheetah helicopters are the modified versions of the Cheetah helicopters. The difference being that the particular engine that you see on this helicopter are the engines that were fitted on board the Dhruv Mark 1 and Mark 2 helicopters. Now, interesting is that all these technicians that you see on your screen have undergone intensive training by the Army. Now, another interesting aspect of the Army aviation is that many of these aviators, when I say aviators, I mean the pilots, are actually converted to the aviation from different other regiments. Like there could be an officer who was commissioned into, let's say, the Corps of the Artillery, or let's say an officer who was commissioned into the infantry. But eventually, during the course of their time, they convert to the aviation. Another interesting aspect is that while the Army aviation has a number of Agniveers who have come into the ranks, none of the technicians that you see would be Agniveers. Why? Because these technicians undergo a strict training, and this training lasts for about 4 years. It's only after that training and once they clear a written exam that they are able to work on this helicopter. Now, one of the critical aspects of the helicopter maintenance is the overhauling of various parts. Now, we are at this particular hangar, and as you can see, various components of the helicopter have been taken out so that they are rehauled, the oiling is done, checks are done, and we'll now speak to Subedar Saab, JP Rui sir to understand why this has been done. So Rui साहब ये बताइए कि कितने फ्लाइंग आवर्स के बाद ये करना पड़ता है?
ये हमारे पास में जब भी कोई मेजर सर्विसिंग में आता है, मेजर सर्विसिंग का मतलब कि हम 400, 800 और T1 और ऐसा ही बोलते हैं, तो उसमें जब जैसे एयरक्राफ्ट हमारे पास आता है तो हम इस कंप्लीट एयरक्राफ्ट को हम डिसमेंटल करते हैं। उसमें कोई मेजर कंपोनेंट ड्यू होता है तो हम उस कंपोनेंट को चेंज करते हैं, और कोई स्ट्रिप एग्जामिनेशन, कम्प्लीटली स्ट्रिप एग्जामिनेशन किया जाता है। अंत में हम इस जहाज को सेम असेंबल करते हैं और एयरक्राफ्ट को 100% सर्विसेबल करके हम फ्लाइंग के लिए तैयार करते हैं।
सुविधा मेजर साहब, एक चीज़ बताइए, कितना टाइम लग जाता है अगर एक पूरे हेलीकॉप्टर का, जैसे ये पूरा हेलीकॉप्टर है, इसके पूरे पार्ट्स निकाल के इसका ओवरऑल करके कितना टाइम लग जाता है?
अप्रोक्स 20 to 25 डेज लग जाते हैं। अलग अलग सर्विसिंग का अलग अलग टाइमिंग होता है, तो अप्रोक्सीमेटली 20 to 25 डेज लग जाते हैं।
Well, there you go. As I mentioned earlier, the overhauling is a critical aspect of the helicopter maintenance itself. And as I said last night, while of course the pilots are the heart of the helicopter, these technicians that you see are actually the soul. Well, I did promise you a surprise, and the surprise are these men. These men are from the Uniform Force, RR unit that was deployed in Jammu, which has now been deployed in Ladakh, following the standoff between India and China that began in 2020. Now these soldiers with their Tavor rifles will board a Dhruv helicopter and will showcase slithering for you. As I mentioned last night, these Cheetah helicopters play a crucial role, especially when it comes to evacuating their personnel or civilians from valleys where the Dhruv helicopters can't operate because of the size. Now, this is what this helicopter is currently showcasing is a rescue operation being undertaken in which they are going to rescue an injured soldier from the battlefield. Last night I wanted to show you the slithering operations of the Indian Army, wherein which these are small insertion teams that are sent in for particular operations. Because of the darkness, we couldn't really capture the operation, and the Army is now doing it in wide open during daylight for you to get a glimpse of how an insertion really happens. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, these personnel are from the Uniform Force of the Indian Army, which are now deployed here in Eastern Ladakh. Now, if you could see them, these personnel are wearing a different gear altogether. They're carrying their Tavor rifles. Now, Tavor is something which is in use with the Para-SF. Now, you would question how come these soldiers are carrying Tavor rifles. Remember that these soldiers are, while they are part of the Uniform Force, they are part of the 31RR, which is primarily made up of the para commandos. So this is an insertion operation that has taken place. They have slithered down from the Dhruv helicopters, and now they are taking positions. One of the critical changes that have taken place in the order of battle since 2020 has been the fact that the Indian Army has gone ahead and created 3 aviation brigades. I have with me Brigadier Gurdeep Singh, the commander of this particular aviation brigade in Leh, to tell us about how significant the development is, the kind of operations that this aviation brigade does, and also the fact that the RPS, that is the remotely piloted aircraft, or let's say in layman terms, drones, have been moved from the artillery to now to the aviation. So if you could give our viewers an overview of this brigade and the kind of operation that this brigade undertakes, sir.
Okay. The Aviation Brigade that I'm commanding, it looks after, provides aviation support to the 14th Corps. So it provides aviation support not only in Siachen Glacier, but also to the Western Ladakh. You must have heard of areas like Kargil, Dras, etc. and also to Eastern Ladakh. So to perform this task, to provide the aviation support, we have different types of helicopters, which you already seen some of them. And these perform various tasks like recce, reconnaissance, surveillance, induction, de-induction of troops, air maintenance, and most importantly, saving lives by evacuating those troops which suffer some injury or because of the vagaries of weather have to evacuate to safety. So that is my task, and as you rightly mentioned, RPAs, they are primarily used for the surveillance across, since we have both the northern borders and the western, we are looking after both, so they provide surveillance cover to us.
So in terms of the aviation brigades itself, you know, I had earlier done the story when the first aviation brigade came up in the northeast in Mesa Mari. But in terms of how does an aviation brigade itself help? Does it have more coordination effort that is there? How does it work, sir?
So as I said, we have got different types of helicopters. Earlier when the Army Aviation was there, we had primarily the R&O squadrons. Now we have got the LAC squadrons, WSIs, and many more helicopters are coming into the inventory of Army Aviation. Now how does when we look at operating in the forward areas, we look at the force packaging. So we need a good combination of both the R&O helicopters, the utility helicopters and attack helicopters. So it's a package. So what does the Aviation Brigade does is, this is where the Aviation Brigade role comes in, the packaging of the right combination and performing the task as required by the organization.
So, like you mentioned the fact that you have the Dhruv, you have the Cheetahs, you also have the Dhruv, the armed version of the Dhruv, which is the WSI, and then you have the RPAs. And you said that you're looking forward to more helicopters being inducted. Now, viewers, remember that the Army has gone in for procurement of the 6 Apache helicopters, the delivery of which is slightly delayed, but those Apaches will go to the Strike Corps. But what eventually the aviation brigades will get are the indigenous Prachans. So is this something that you're looking forward to, sir? And how do these helicopters help?
Well, we need the attack helicopters as well. So the Prachand, as you rightly mentioned, the light combat helicopters will be a major force multiplier, especially in high altitude terrain. That is what they're designed for. So we're looking forward to them to be part of our inventory. And of course, you mentioned Rudras. So Rudras along with the LCH will be the attack helicopters that will be utilizing for various roles here.
So there you go. As you can see, the Army Aviation, its arm itself is undergoing major changes. The aviation brigades have been set up. There are more helicopters that would be inducted in the coming years that would make this particular arm more force, will add more force to this particular arm, and will be able to throw a hard punch when needed in this terrain. But because these are tracked vehicles, they're able to carry out all kinds of maneuvers, and they're able to overcome all challenges that come on in their way. तो इसमें कितने का क्रू होता है इसमें?
इसमें क्रू 3 का क्रू होता है जो कम से कम कैजुअलिटी को 4 को इक्वेट कर सकता है एक समय पर.
So this is a drone which is manufactured in India, so it's an indigenous drone. But how do you use this drone?
First of all, like area and like this, observation and mobility is reduced. So it is a major important factor for our units